I'm standing this morning at the foot of Mount Waternomee near North Woodstock, New Hampshire. About 70 years ago, something pretty dramatic happened up there, and all eyes turned skyward. Stick around. We'll take a hike into history together. Welcome to Windows to the Wild. I'm Willem Lange. On January 14th, way back in 1942, over 70 years ago, a B-18A bomber took off from Westover Field in Massachusetts for submarine patrol up the Atlantic coast all the way to Newfoundland. Now, the United States had just been bombed 5 weeks earlier by the Japanese in Pearl Harbor, and a few days later, war had been declared against the United States by Italy and Germany. So we were in a kind of state of high agitation here. The bomber was looking for German submarines which were reported off the coast of the Maritimes and New England. They went all the way to Newfoundland, headed back, but they got lost in snow squalls. And what they thought was Providence, Rhode Island, was really Concord, New Hampshire. And shortly afterward, they slammed into the top of Mount Waternomee in a thick forest. The crash and the explosions were heard way down in North Woodstock, and everybody rushed to the rescue of the plane. We're going to hike today on a trail which is not an official trail, so we can't really tell you where it is, up to the bomber site, and we'll shoot a few pictures of the relics that are scattered through the woods up there. To join us on this trip today is a brand new friend of mine, Sarah Jordan, who's an archaeologist with the Forest Service. Yes?
That's right.
And what does an archaeologist in the Forest Service do?
Well, because the National Forest is all federally owned land, my job is to make sure that we're following the National Historic Preservation Act and other laws that protect cultural and historic sites on the forest.
And this is one of them.
This is one of them.
It's also sort of a memorial, isn't it? Because two of the crew were killed up there.
That's right.
So we're going to head up to the crash site, which is, what, about 1.5 miles or so up there?
About that.
That should be exciting. Look in this snow. Now, along the way, you don't know this, but we're going to meet a family that's going to join us for the hike. And we'll take you along, too. So, come on, let's go, shall we? All right. Cool, but not cold. I think I see somebody here in the trail. These are the people we're supposed to meet. Hello. How are you? Just to be sure, you're the people we're supposed to meet, right? Yes. Okay. Who are you?
I'm Cara Milano.
Cara? Yeah. Milano. And this is?
Conrad.
Hi, Conrad. I'm Will. And you are?
Theodore.
Theodore. I got it. And Anthony, right?
Anthony.
Yes. That nice I knew. Okay, good to meet you guys. Now, you're the winners of the auction, is that right? Mm-hmm. Our annual auction, a day with the crew.
Yes.
Okay, if you'd come in second, you'd get 2 days with the crew. Well, that's great. And why were you interested in this hike, this particular one?
Well, we liked your show, and this is a historic hike that is really cool.
And it's close to home.
Now, you guys have hiked around the world, right?
We do like to hike, and we like to travel, for sure.
Ah, that's great. We're going to travel today, not far, 3.2 miles, they tell me. But I think you'll feel it a little bit tonight. You'll sleep on the way home. Sarah, behind you. Mount Waternomee rises in west-central New Hampshire near Mount Moosilauke. I promised the U.S. Forest Service I wouldn't disclose the exact location of the plane's wreckage because it's a designated cultural site. There's concern the remains will be damaged. What I can tell you is the unmarked route we walked starts out easy and quickly becomes just a bit difficult. Oh, we come to the spot. We cross this brook and then head up the mountainside toward the crash site. It looks as though it gets a little steep from here on up, but this is going to be my first challenge right here. To get across this, we're golden.
The waterfall is just beautiful, coming down over a lot of granite, just rolling down it into that brook. And it looks just gorgeous with the sun and the snow glistening.
It didn't take long to see whether Milanos bid high in last year's NHP TV auction for a day with the Windows to the Wild crew. They really love being out here, together.
Well, we really enjoy spending time outside and just at least making a weekend of something like this is special. Spending time in the summer and when we can.
You're right, that is just how strong.
It is fun.
It is fun to be all together, to do this in the morning, and just enjoy being outside, the peace, the quiet.
This is nice.
Yeah.
Would this still be nice if it were sleeting?
Not sure about that.
Well, it'd be different, right? But
Yeah.
you'd still be here. It'd still
Yeah.
be enjoyable.
We just often hike closer to home around Mount Kearsarge and trails in Hopkinton where we live more than in the Whites. We've really never hiked in the Whites, although we've hiked just to the base of Mount Washington from the Joe Dodge Lodge there with the boys once a year for the past 2 years. That's been fun in the summer. And last year they went up with skis, and we skied down the Sherburne Trail from the base of the ravine down to the Joe Dodge Lodge. The boys and I just trekked it up and skied down and did that in a day.
The family's outdoor adventures go far beyond New Hampshire's borders.
When we've done different family vacations, we've tried to do a little bit of hiking. So in the summer we have family in Italy and have been to Italy and fly through Switzerland and have spent the past few years spending some time hiking in just around Interlaken, and we've enjoyed that.
Today, however, it's Waternomee. The family's looking forward to seeing the remains of an event from the days of their parents and grandparents. For Sarah, it's a hike she hasn't made in a while. She remembers the impression the crash site made on her the first time she came upon it.
I hadn't been here. One of the survivors wanted to do something to help protect the site and to preserve the history.
That's the ghost of the plane. That's where it would be,
right,
if it had stayed intact. So it came in like that from the south.
A bunch of us came up. We knew it was here. We had it recorded as one of our cultural sites on the forest, but a lot of us had never been here.
But the wings are back here. They got sheared off.
And it's pretty impressive, just to see kind of the scale of the debris field.
Cockpit roof. Wow, that got blown a long way.
Kind of the size of some of the pieces, to think that people survived, a plane that is in that kind of condition afterward.
But the two engines were rolled down the mountainside by whom?
That's what we think. I mean, it just seems like they've been pushed down the hill, and there are some stories of the people who came up, not long after the crash, that's what happened.
If you decide to make the hike, don't expect to maintain trail. There isn't one. At times it felt as though we were moving by intuition alone. We knew the bomber had crashed at an altitude of about 2,500 feet, which meant we still had a long way to go. Well, it's only, 1.6 miles. That's not far.
Straight up.
Oh, yeah, it was straight up. Pretty up, yeah. Up and up and up. But for young Conrad, it's a piece of cake.
Easy comparatively to other hikes I've done. I'm just waiting for some of our group to group up, but we're going at an okay pace.
On January 14th, 1942, just 5 weeks after the start of World War II, the Douglas B-18A bomber left Westover Airfield near Chicopee Falls, Massachusetts. The 7-man crew headed out over the Atlantic toward Newfoundland, looking for German U-boats. A little past 4:30 p.m., the pilot turned the bomber toward home. Snow squalls, strong wind, and darkness threw the plane off course. At one point, the crew thought they were somewhere south of Boston, but they were actually over Concord, New Hampshire. The bomber's wings began to ice up, so the pilot descended to less than 3,000 feet. About 7:40 p.m., a snow-covered mountain suddenly appeared straight ahead of them. They tried to turn right and climb, but it was too late. I guess they saw it just before they hit it.
Yeah, just before they came in, they had no idea they were over the mountains, and suddenly the clouds lifted and they saw something in front of them, and kind of at the last minute realized it was a mountain and tried to turn, which is probably what saved them, so that they came in at an angle instead of head-on.
I guess the navigator was getting very nervous because he didn't know where he was.
Yeah, I think he was kind of having second thoughts about, maybe they were off course more than they thought. There's, in one of the versions of the story, says that he was kind of coming up to tell the pilots that, and they told him to go back. Yeah.
So here they were, planes burning, bombs about to go off, maybe, and one did, I guess, one or two.
Yeah, I think right
off.
In the initial fire.
They crawled as far as they could away from the plane. 2 guys stayed inside dead. One guy found himself wrapped around a tree.
Yeah, the guys who were outside of the plane kind of, I think, weren't quite sure how they got out. I think they probably, one of the explosions kind of blew them out of the plane, so they landed kind of in different places around the wreckage.
Folks from nearby Lincoln and Woodstock heard the plane roar overhead, then the crash, and moments later a strong explosion, and saw the mountaintop light up. 2 of the crew died in the fire.
They mobilized pretty quickly, I think. Some of the accounts say that within half an hour people were heading up here.
Sarah, was it the blaze of the fire that helped the rescuers find the site?
That was all they had to go on after some people heard the plane coming in really low, and there was, a big boom and explosion when it first crashed. But then by the time the rescuers were on their way up here, they could see flames, and that's what they were navigating toward.
They all knew the woods. They were loggers here.
Yeah, there were a lot of experienced woodsmen. Logging was sort of the mainstay of the town of Lincoln at that time.
Yeah. They were, with their axes, they were cutting a trail to get people out. Jeez.
Yeah, they did actually have a crew come up and cut out a trail to get the toboggans down.
What a job. After climbing for nearly 2 hours, we came upon the first sign of the crash.
Oh, that!
It's not like rusted, it's just...
Well, it's aluminum.
It's aluminum?
Yep.
Wow.
It got burned a little, didn't it? A resting place for a piece of the fuselage. There, my boy, is a radial engine.
Wow.
Someone's taken the spark plugs. More than 70 years later, the bomber sits among the trees, its body twisted and broken, but still whole enough to recall for future generations what happened that night on Mount Waternomee. Honoring the World War II U.S. Army air crew who crashed in a B-18 bomber on Mount Waternomee in Woodstock, New Hampshire, January 14th, 1942. Lieutenant Anthony Benvenuto, Lieutenant Woodrow Cantner, Lieutenant Fletcher Craig, PFC Richard Chubb, PFC Robert Picard, Private Raymond Lawrence, Private Noah Phillips. Yeah, 7 guys, 5 of them survived. The site here now is protected permanently as a National Historic Site, or what?
No, it's what we call a cultural site on the National Forest. And so since it is all, federally owned land as part of the White Mountain National Forest, it's protected, in that we have to follow the historic preservation laws to make sure that we're not having a negative impact on the site by any of actions on the forest that the Forest Service might do. And we also try to manage it the best we can to protect it from, it's being visited too much. People sometimes come to historic sites because they're so interested, but they kind of forget that by coming here, they're having an impact on the site. And so we just want to make people aware that, when you come to a place like this, that you should leave the pieces of a wreckage like this, or any kind of historic artifacts you might find, as you find them.
Great pieces of an airplane are scattered through the trees like blown newspapers.
In 1992, around the 50th anniversary of the crash, New Hampshire Public Television recorded a remembrance of the 2 crew members who perished that night. The station interviewed eyewitnesses and some of the survivors, most of whom have since died.
My wife and I were playing bridge at the Lincoln Hotel, and we heard this terrific explosion, or I think there were 2, and saw a light up on Mount Woodstock on the ridge called Waternomee. And somebody came in and said they thought a plane had crashed.
We had Sherman Adams involved, and he saw the fires up on Mount Waternomee, and that would be close to the Woodstock Ravine Lodge. And he thought that that might be the site, and that something had happened up there to the lodge. And being a Dartmouth man, he was very interested in tracking down the source of those flames. And he put through a call, I believe, to Hans Paskin, who was the general manager of the lodge. And eventually, what came out of all of it was the knowledge that this was happening in a nearby mountain. And Paskin, I think, felt it had to be in the Waternomee area, but it certainly wasn't the Woodstock Ravine Lodge.
From the level of the ground, even a small blaze, it just seems like it would be hard to see it.
Yeah, and they did lose sight of it a couple times.
Right.
And then I think there was one searcher that got a good compass bearing, but he had to kind of turn and go back, but they followed that information and were able to get close enough to hear the wounded airmen calling for help.
Paul Doverlock, one of the chief rescuers who went on to become a World War II hero, was in a house that bomber might have passed over that night.
Well, on that night I was visiting friends in Lost River, on Lost River Road, and we heard these explosions. So this Bob Kelly and myself, and we're going to find out what it was. We went home and threw on some little heavier clothes we had, because we were going out that evening, and we went up the Warren Road. When we reached there was a confusion of a lot of cars there and everything else, and a lot of the fellows, state police were there and the forestry were there, but nobody had moved. So a bunch of us got together and we said, we got to go up and see what's going on. This Neil McGinnis had a small compass. He took a reading on the fire from the hit road, and we followed it up through. We kept going. The snow was very deep, about 4 to 5 feet of snow.
Yeah, and this was right after, the hurricane of 1938, so there was a lot of blown down trees that they were climbing through and climbing over. And so there's a story, I think, of one guy who was climbing over some of those blown down trees and fell down into the snow kind of up to his waist or his chest or something like that. It was deep snow.
And after we got up there quite a ways, somebody, the lead man would holler, hello! He'd keep hollering that. And finally, when we got to the top of the mountain, and that was hours later, we heard help. Well, I guess we froze that right then and there.
At first, rescuers believed that only 3 of the 7 crew members had survived the crash. Then they discovered 2 more, too badly injured to walk.
And they said there was nobody left up there. The plane had bombed, the bombs had exploded. So we said, we're going up and see the plane. So Bob Kelly, myself, and Everett Kenny were going towards the plane. We got within 300 yards of it, somewhere in that vicinity, and we heard help again. We froze again. So we went over and found this Benvenuto, Lieutenant Benvenuto, laying in the snow. We found that lady had a broken back. And not more than a couple of 100 feet away, we heard another cry for help. So Bob Kelly and Everett Kenny stayed with Benvenuto, and I went to see this kid, Robert Pickard. His leg was wrapped around a tree.
I just about had hit the end of that I couldn't go any further. And then we heard some voices, and we start yelling help, I guess. And a search party came along and tobogganed me down.
Had to go over this like this today. Wow, that'd be a rough ride, boy.
Right, yeah, even so, it seems like it would be a rough ride on a toboggan if you were injured and in shock. And
I read that, wasn't it Sherman Adams who directed the crew up here? A fellow with a broken leg or 2, he turned him head first on the toboggan so that he wouldn't go down legs first and be jolted as he went.
Yeah, I think there was actually a local doctor that came up here pretty much right after the crash and helped.
Yep.
So there was a good response. It was pretty
Carrying
impressive.
a black bag.
Yeah.
Gee. The 5 survivors recovered in area hospitals. Years later, the co-pilot claimed that the crash had actually saved his life.
Yeah, he used to say that this being in this plane crash actually saved his life because he was scheduled to be on another plane 2 days later that crashed in Nevada. Was the plane that Carol Lombard and some other Hollywood people were on, and that was a fatal crash. I think 22 people were killed.
Well, this is very impressive. Just as bleak as I thought it would be. Beautiful woods, but what an awful place to wake up,
Yeah. And the Army did come up and do an investigation afterwards, and they said it's not worth trying to salvage anything. It's too, it's too remote. It's too far up on the mountain. It's too, shredded apart already from the bombs.
So here it sits, more than 70 years after it plowed into the trees on Mount Waternomee, a U.S. Army Air Force B-18A bomber. It's a memorial, a cultural site, and a destination for some hikers. With proper respect for the drama that played out here, we trust that the remains, along with their story, will survive at least another 70 years. What do you think of this place, huh?
Okay.
Just okay?
Because it was too long just to hike for this.
It was a long hike, yes.
It was really interesting. It's amazing that these parts are still alive right now.
Yeah. You bet. Middle of a dark night, you wake up, boom, everything's burning and smashing, and you're hurt, and you don't know how bad. And it's snowing. And you're hundreds of miles away from where you think you are. That's scary. Yes. And you don't even know it. What do you think, Cara?
I think it's a spectacular way to spend the morning, plane or no plane. To just be in the woods, to be walking and talking. It's been a really fun morning.
You have a gift for hyperbole.
I think the exact opposite.
Anthony?
I'm impressed by how just treacherous and steep it is here, that the wreckage is just perched on these trees and rocks. And that it was possible to get up here and that people got out of here.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we've made it. We're all resting here beside one of the wings of that B-18 that came down over 70 years ago. The pieces are up here so far in the woods that they didn't bother to take them out. And it's now a sort of a memorial to the men who died here that night, to the men who crashed into the mountain and lived that night in the early days of the war. We're going to have to say goodbye now. You all have to go back down to where? Southern New Hampshire. And I got to go back to Vermont if we get down this mountain. Sarah, thank you. We wouldn't have made it without you.
It's my pleasure.
Oh, no, it's entirely ours. So it's time to say goodbye, which we will. Bye-bye. I'm Willem Lange, and I hope to see you again on Windows to the Wild. Support for the production of Windows to the Wild has been provided by the Alice J. Reen Charitable Trust, the Fuller Foundation, the Mount Washington Cog Railway, and from viewers like you, thank you.